Hello, everyone out there, and welcome back to my channel. Today is Friday, November the 15th, and so we are almost in the middle of November already. And so I hope everyone has had a wonderful week. This week is just about over, and so I want to go right into the lesson that God gave me on today. And today, the title of my message is Fear Not. Fear Not. I know a lot of you are, a lot of people are fearing right now because there's so much going on, and people are, they are fearful, very fearful. But God says, "Fear not, fear not," because in His Word He tells us that He will never leave us nor forsake us, and He also says that He's a present help in a time of need. In 1 Peter 3 and 12, it says, "The eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and His ears are open to our prayers." And so God is always there. He's always there for us. And even though God says all these things in His Word, He knew that there are going to be times when we are going to have to face fearful things. And so these words are to encourage us at those times. He know that we are human. Some people say they're not, they're not afraid of anything, but this is a rare thing. Because many people, it's going to be times in your life where you're going to be fearful about something. And see, we live in a fallen world. You look at the world around us, it seems like a lot of things are just falling apart. And then you look at the fact that the Bible says Satan, or you can say the devil or Lucifer, because he has several names, is the God of this world. And so because of that, the devil has influenced many people. I mean, we never seen so many people that are under the influence of, we know that it's not natural for the people that's spiritual. We know the things that are happening, the things that people are doing are not normal things. And see, the world just think people just crazy, or they insane, or they try to come up with different reasons why they are doing things. But a lot of times they don't even know why they're doing it, and it's because they're influenced by the devil. And see, the devil knows that his time is short, and so he's wreaking havoc. He's wreaking havoc more so than we have ever seen it. And so it's causing people to be fearful. Fearful. And for the people that, if you don't belong to God, it's like, who is really going to protect you? Because many people are carrying weapons, they packing and doing all of that, and it's still they fearful. They fearful. But the greatest protection that you can have is the protection of God. Because a lot of times people are buying weapons, but the weapons end up being used on them, or they get into the wrong hands. A lot of children, you hear about a lot of children, they get hurt by weapons that the parents bought to protect themselves. And so the best protection you can have is God. Is God. Because anything that humans can come up with, it tends to fail. It can fail you. Or like not work out the way you want it to work out for you. And so people, like I said, people packing left and right, they fearful to go outside at night. But it ain't safe in the day or night in the times that we live in. And that's because, like I said, the devil is influencing many people. But God says, fear not. If you trust in God, the word says you will never be ashamed if you trust in God. He said, those that trust in Him shall not be ashamed, be made ashamed. And so we have to trust Him, even in these turbulent times that we live in. because God is with us. He's with us. And see, learning how to be, we should be fearful of certain things. But a lot of things, when it comes to the devil influencing people, because he's coming after the saints big time. A lot of times you feel like you're just fighting with no let up from, there's no let up from the enemy. The more you walk closer to God, the enemy is going to come after you. He's going to come after you. But God told us that we are protected by him. And then he has to show us how to stand at these times, because learning to not be fearful is a process. It ain't that you become this great warrior overnight. It's a process. And sometimes feeling fear is good. It's just that we have to learn to face it instead of running from that fear. A lot of times we have to face it, because once you face that fear, you'll find out that you a lot of times don't have nothing to fear at all. But as I said, it's a process. It's a process. Because we know that fear is a spirit. It's a spirit. And fear is a tormenting spirit. Because have you ever been in fear about something? It's like you can't rest. A lot of times you can't sleep. You anxious. And you worry, because the devil has your mind, just all these pictures in your mind. You're thinking about all the worst scenarios that can happen. But a lot of times these are just images that are not even real. Most of the time it's just not even real, because a lot of times the worst thing you can think that can happen, it never happens. And that's because the devil is tormenting your mind. So we have to get that power back, because the word tells us what we need to focus on. And then in 2 Timothy 1:7, the word says that God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And so when we feeling all these different things, this is not of God. It's not of God. It's of the devil. I know I have been in fear about stuff. We all, most of us all, if you admit there have been times when you have been fearful, so fearful about something. And I remember just when the doctor, they found a lump in my breast, and this was years ago. And the first thing came to my mind was cancer. And I just remember I was so fearful. When I say it was torment, just fearful about what can happen. I was so in so much fear. It was like I was somewhere else. It just had overwhelmed me it was overwhelming in my mind. Because when you fearful about something, that becomes your focus. You can't think about nothing else. It's just constantly in your mind. But in the end, it wasn't even worth being fearful about at all, because it all came out well. There was nothing wrong with me it was no cancer found in me, even though I did have it was a tumor. It was a tumor that they took out, but it was not cancerous. But just the thought that something could be wrong, that's a fear that you don't want to have. But God, we have to trust God in those times, that God is going to work it out for our good, because the Bible tells us that no weapon, now the weapon is going to be formed against you, but that don't mean the weapon is going to prosper. He said no weapon formed against us shall prosper. So we have to believe that word. When God says, trust me, then we have to trust him, especially in those times. It's easy to trust God when there is no fear, when all things are well with you. But see, we have to learn to trust Him when things don't look good. When they look real bad, that's when we need to really trust God. And so, in 2 Corinthians, I want to go to 2 Corinthians, and I want to read the 10th chapter. I want to go to the 10th chapter of 2 Corinthians. I want to read that 5th verse. Second Corinthians. I was in 1 Corinthians. And that 5th verse says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God. So we have to cast down those thoughts. If they are not of God, we have to cast those thoughts down. And it says, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. And then in Romans 12:2, it says everything starts in the mind. It says, be not conformed unto this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Of God. And then also in Luke 10:19. Go to Luke, the 10th chapter and the 19th verse. And it says, behold, I give unto you power to tread upon serpents and upon scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. So God has given us power over the enemy. And then also in Isaiah, I want to go to Isaiah, the 26th chapter, the 3rd, and I want to read the 3rd and the 4th verse. And it says, trust ye in the Lord forever. For in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength. It says, trust in the Lord. No, let me read the 3rd verse. It says, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusted in thee. And then I'm going to read that 4th verse again. It says, trust ye in the Lord forever, for in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength. And so God is our protection. He is our protection. And also I want to go to Acts. The book of Acts, I want to go to the 27th chapter, which talks about Paul. You know that Paul went through many things, and so Paul became a prisoner. In this particular chapter, it's talking about Paul, and Paul was, as I said, he was a prisoner, and so they was transporting him by ship. And so by them transporting by ship, so this trip was going to be a long, this was going to be a long trip. And so while they were transporting Paul, they ran into a storm, something like a hurricane. What we see today, you know, a hurricane can really tear up a lot of things because it's so powerful. And so while they were on this ship, the ship seemed like it was going to be destroyed because the storm was that temperate. It was a temperate storm, and the people were afraid because they thought they were about to perish. But over time, see, because God was with Paul, and so God sent the angel to encourage Paul and to let him know that he was going to make it. And so I want to read the 27th verse. No, I want to start at that the 27th chapter. I want to start at that 22nd verse. I want to read down to the 25th verse, and it says, "Now I exhort you to be of good cheer." This is Paul. "For there shall be no loss of any man's life among you but the ship." So he's saying the ship gonna be towed, but there will be no loss of life. And so it says, "For there stood by me this night the angel of God, whose I am, and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar. And lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God." See, you have to believe him. You have to believe that God will protect you. He said, "For I believe God that it shall be even as it was told me. Howbeit we must cast upon a certain island." And so you can read the rest of this chapter in your private time to see exactly what happened, but they made it. The ship was torn up, but they made it. And so I also want to go to Exodus. This is not a very long message at all. It's just a message to encourage someone. And it says, Exodus, the 14th chapter, the 13th and the 14th verse. And this is during the time when God was about to deliver. He was delivering. He had sent the deliverer, and the deliverer for his people was going to be Moses. And so as God was delivering them, they came against, opposition came against them, and they became fearful because once God brought them out, the Egyptians began to come after them. And so they became, like I said, they were fearful. But they forgot that God was with them. And so God began to speak to Moses. And so this is what he said in the 13th and 14th verse. He said, "And Moses said unto the people," and see, this is after God talked to him. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, ye shall see them again no more. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." A lot of us, we running from things, and God is saying, stand still. Stand still. And like I said, believe God, because God will fight your battles when you trust him. And I also want to go to 2nd Chronicles. I want to read the 20th chapter of 2nd Chronicles, which talks about Jehoshaphat. And Jehoshaphat was fearful because a great multitude of people began to come after God's people. And he was fearful about it, but he began to seek God. And God sent the message through the prophet to tell Jehoshaphat that he was on his side and that he had nothing to fear. And so I want to go to the 20th chapter, the 14th through the 17th verse. And it says, Then upon Jehaziel, the son of Zechariah, the son of Benaiah, the son of Jael, the son of Mattaniah, a Levite of the sons of Asaph, came the Spirit of the Lord in the midst of the congregation. And he said, Hearken ye all Judah, and ye inhabitants of Jerusalem, and thou King Jehoshaphat, thus said the Lord unto you, Be not afraid, nor dismayed by the reason of this great multitude. For the battle is not yours, but God's. Tomorrow go ye down against them. Behold, they come up by the cliff of Ziz. And ye shall find them at the end of the brook before the wilderness of Jeruel. Ye shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation of the Lord with you. O Judah and Jerusalem, fear not, nor be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for the Lord will be with you. And the Lord is with us. So be encouraged. Amen. Bye-bye for now.